As the first month winds down in a new year, it's time to take all of the reflection, all of the goals, and all of the planning into action. Whether you are multi-passionate or you have niched all the way down, it's time to put the plans into action. I wanted to go back and revisit an episode about a man who took his passion and turned it into a thriving business. It's your business, so build a business you love.
Welcome to the Travel Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Aylin Blanco. I interview successful industry professionals and share my personal journey to becoming a travel agent. This show is for aspiring travel agents and travel professionals at every level. My mission is to uncover the universal keys to thrive in this business. Join me as I take a closer look into the life of a travel agent. Hello, and welcome to the Travel Agent Podcast. Today, we have an air-only specialist, and he's going to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Mike Schneider. I'm the owner of MKI Group Travel. We specialize in air only. That's a very narrow niche or niche, depending on which part of the country you're from. We do specialize specifically in international air for groups and for individuals, and even more specifically for the individuals and groups, we specialize with humanitarian fare, which would encompass anything from missionaries to anyone that works with a 501c3, volunteers, NGOs. We've also gotten into a lot of international adoption travel. Once we brought my son home from China, realized the need there and the specific contracts available for that. So that is
awesome.
That's my passion. That's what makes me pound my fist on the table and laugh and cry and everything. So.
Well, I'm so excited to interview you. We met a couple months ago, and I've just been looking forward to this interview. So we're going to get started. My first question is, how did you get into the travel industry and becoming a travel broker?
Well, about right out of college, I actually was in missions and ministry. I worked with campus ministry and a denominational ministry for about 20 years before I launched into the travel side of things. While I was in the campus ministry, I actually served overseas in the former Soviet Union. Most of my time was in Vilnius, Lithuania. Spent a little bit of time in Moscow. Spent some time in Uzbekistan. Then once I came back to the States and finished up at seminary with my degrees there, one day towards the end of my seminary education, I got a wild hair and dropped a letter to my denomination at the time and just said, here's my dream job. In my ideal world, this is what I'd love to do. I'm passionate about mobilizing churches and helping people send short-term teams all over the world, but I want them to send short-term teams that have long-term impact. So it's not just a 2-week memory, but it's really a launching pad into the rest of their lives and volunteering or being involved in their church or their in their organization or nonprofit, what have you. And so for about 6 or 7 years, I actually directed short-term missions for my denomination. So I was in charge of about 1,000 churches nationwide, specifically geared towards sending teams over to serve usually 1 to 2 weeks, but then more importantly, tying in with long-term efforts and national laborers and national workers so that when our team would leave, their impact would continue because we're building into the lives of people that are there every single day. One of the best things I did, one of the smartest moves I made, it was probably by accident. Most of my smart moves are by accident. One of the smartest things I did was I developed a relationship with my travel agent. Pitted him against 3 or 4 or 5 different agencies, built a relationship, and we started clicking. And one of the best things I did was really directing all of my travel towards that travel agent so that he could take all the travel stuff, and I say stuff with a capital S. So he took all of the travel off of my plate so that I could focus on that which I was really hired to do, and that is to develop the teams and mobilize people, build into people's life, stuff that only I could do. And he just took the travel off of my plate. I'd say, boom, boom, boom. I'd land, give him a listing of what we needed, let him get to work. And because I was sending all my business to him, I knew that he was going to do his best to completely serve me well. I also knew that he was getting paid for it. That didn't bother me a bit. because I had all sorts of time to make myself look good in the stuff that I did best. As we developed that relationship, we started dreaming. What would happen if we married my expertise in missions and in people and in mobilizing people and training people with his expertise in travel? He would learn from me. I would learn from him. What would that look like? As my wife was offered a position back in Minnesota, we were in Chicago at the time. It became clear that we needed to make a move. And so I left that position, and we basically launched a travel agency, specifically marrying my expertise in missions with his expertise in travel. Learned from him for a couple of years. We were actually then, he was bought out by one of our suppliers, and they wanted me to work one of their call centers. And I said, nah, that's not where my passion is. Yes, I sell tickets, but my passion is really helping organizations develop their programs, yada, 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 as well as provide superior service and airfare. So that is when we launched MKI Group Travel in 2007. So we launched MKI 12 years ago and been going strong ever since. And we continue to get to do what we love to do and serve well, continue to consult with organizations, that type of thing. But that's usually just a value-added benefit that I can give the organizations that I'm serving. So we serve those that are sending, and that's kind of how I got into the whole travel side of things. Was I was exposed and I got infected by being directly involved with another travel agent. We launched a travel agency, and this is where it's taken us.
You hit on three huge topics that we talk about on the show all the time. And one is building relationships with the suppliers and, collaboration. So, over competition. So really just meeting and figuring out how you can use your talents with each other. And the last one truly is building a business you love. So I love that, you were offered different positions and you made it a conscious decision and an intentional decision to build a business that that you were passionate about. So that is really exciting. And so congratulations to you.
There's always kind of a sense of what I call a sense of exhilarating nausea when you take that step of faith, saying, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills with this, but I know I don't want to do this, saying no to the right things, to be able to say yes to the best things,
I love that because I am definitely in that stage. So what do you wish you kind of would have known before you jumped all in your own business?
I call it the lemonade stand effect. For years, admittedly and shamefully, I ran my business more like a lemonade stand than a business. It's kind of the curse of the freelancer. You do whatever, anybody asks you something, you jump, you do it, you do whatever it takes. You take all business, you serve anybody, even the entitled, ugly clients that don't want to pay you for anything and don't recognize your expertise, but just want to use you. I think that's one part of it. In terms of, I think that's a big part of it. The other part is really developing the systems needed, kind of the backbone of the business. So there again, I talked about one of the reasons I liked using a travel agent when I was on the other side was because I could pass that off and I could focus on those things which I did best. Same thing as with business, especially as a travel agency owner. Technically, we're small fish, in the sense of I've got 5 or 6 ICs and myself, and so technically we're pretty small. We could just kind of run around and fake it till we make it, But really realizing the importance. I wish I had learned the systems that I needed earlier on. It would have saved me a lot of headaches down the road. Anything from accounting to following up to getting the right CRM. I've gone through a million different CRMs, customer relation management tools, trying to find the right fit so that I can actually communicate to my clients that I remember their birthdays, something as simple as that, or something as simple as or as complex as the itineraries that they like. And they hate Brussels, but they love Amsterdam, stuff like that. Instead of having a bunch of Post-it notes laying all over the place, it's actually in a system where we can serve our clients well and give them the impression, at least, that we know what we're doing.
So if you don't mind me asking, what system do you use now?
Right now we're using, I call it Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft is what I've been using the last 3 or 4 months. They've, I think, just changed their name to Keep, Keap. And one of the reasons I chose that, I used Client Base. I've tried all the Travifys, all that kind of stuff. Client Base is great, but it's so powerful. And actually it's more than I needed because I'm air only. And so I don't need cruise bookings, hotel bookings, air bookings, everything and their dog involved with that. With Infusionsoft, I've chosen that specifically because it helps me build my base, my network, the email lists. It helps with some lead magnets, helps me do follow-up. Plus I can also, you can invoice and that type of thing on it. Although for most of my invoicing and accounting, I'm still using QuickBooks primarily for that. And then I use Keep Infusionsoft for building my lead magnets and punching my clients into the base to be able to keep notes and daily tracking of what needs to be done and kind of the checklist. The only other thing that I've continued to use that I just like because it's easy, and that's Workboard, workboard.com. And that's more like an online checklist and project management tool. That's really good if I've got, I'm working on a group of 140 kids going to England right now and keeping track of just all the details and that type of thing with each client.
I've used Infusionsoft too, so I can see how that would be really helpful. I actually had to figure out a way to move to a different one just because I do the hotels and the cruise ships and stuff. So it seemed like I should move to a travel geared CRM. So that's really good information. So what have you kind of failed at that you feel like you're a rock star now?
Oh, let me count the ways. No, one of my earliest failures that I really got bit bad on, is that proper English? Early on, I operated when I brought on ICs, a lot of times I bring on independent contractors, and actually they'd be clients that would just show an interest and say, hey, how could I get into this? And then I'd bring them on and train them and kind of do the information dump and let them just go at it and learn. Early on, I brought on a couple folks that just were going gangbusters and did a great job. And I operated very highly on trust, there's nothing wrong with trust. But I trusted so much that I really didn't have, for all practical purposes, for the first couple of years, I had them. It was more a gentleman's agreement, as you were, or an email. Well, let's just do it this way, and this is what the splits will be, and this is how we run things. I didn't have a contract. I said that quietly, so not all your listeners would hear it and immediately turn off because I'm an idiot. I didn't have a solid contract, and I actually had one agent, one of my top producing agents that I turned over different business to, that I'd promoted, that I'd trained for several years. Actually went rogue on me and went to several of my suppliers and basically forged my approval to let her start her own agency and use my contracts, the contracts that I'd negotiated, and she got through three or four of my primary suppliers and made a launch to start her own business.
Wow.
And went after some of my clients, and it was just a mess. And so I had to learn that hurt. It took me about 6 months just to get over it hurt more than it ticked me off. It did tick me off, but in terms of a failure, that was just failure. There's nothing wrong with trust, but you need to be smart. My dad always said, his 2 pieces of greatest advice that my dad gave me were, do something even if it's wrong, kid, which means, he always took that to me, just do something, get moving, take action, execute. You can always pivot, but do something even if it's wrong. And then he'd usually follow it up with, don't be stupid. And so in terms of the whole contract thing, I did a really good job of kind of the ready, fire, aim approach to business. I just started and went for it. but I didn't really cover my butt real well. Now, the good news with that rogue agent is, and I think they're still operating, but all the clients that initially they had tried to take over with them within about 6 months came back and just said, you know what, we want to come back with you guys. You'll serve us well, and we've had that relationship built. So it was a short-term pain, but long-term gain because we were able to reiterate the value that we've been providing to them, and they saw that, and they came home. But,
well, I'm glad they came home. And, that really is good advice, because that's not actually something that we've discussed so far on the Travel Agent podcast is really just covering your butt and making sure that you have the contracts.
No, the nice thing with contracts, I mean, technically, with a lot of the contracts and IC contracts, I feel like a lot of them, unless you really want to be an absolute, just go anal on everything. And most of the time, if someone wants to break it or wants to get out, there's going to be ways that they can. But I think on the front end, what it does, it just, in this case, it probably would have saved a lot of pain and suffering if in terms of, it would have caused them to pause before trying to pull something behind my back. They probably would have come and asked, and I would have said, be warm, be filled, how can I help you go? And I would have let them go, but so contracts are important in that respect and covering your backside.
What is most exciting for you right now, like in business and in your personal life?
I think most exciting in business, and this has been, I'd say, the last 6 months or a year, because, we've been at this for 12 years, like I said, and you kind of go through that phase of when you first start, you're going at it like you're killing snakes, and just everything is just clicking and you're loving it. And if there's a challenge, it's just, who cares? It's a challenge. It's a boulder. I'm going to either pound through it or figure out a way around it. Then you get kind of into a rut and you start looking at the business and you get into some of the pain and suffering of the day-to-day grind. And all of a sudden, some of the clients that you've got that you used to put up with and seek to serve, now they just irritate you. And you want to figure out, I think the last 6 months or a year, and part of that is I joined a mastermind of other entrepreneurs and business owners. Then we meet every week via Zoom, and we just trade ideas and learn from one another and hold each other accountable and that type of thing. I think the thing that I'm excited most about is I've been reestablishing and refocusing on that which pulled me into the business part of this in the first place, and that's relationships. My job when I worked for that denomination, my job description, about 80% of it was build relationships with people that are doing stuff around the world, whether it's digging wells in Africa or whether it's working in an orphanage. Find out who's doing good work, partner with them so that when a church would call and say, hey, we have a passion for orphanages in Africa, can you direct us? We'd be able to direct them somewhere, either to our missionaries or specifically to another organization or volunteer opportunity. And we'd be able to direct them somewhere that they could genuinely serve and have an impact with. And so really what I've been doing in the last 6 months or a year, my 80-20, you hear everybody talks about the 80-20. My 80-20 had flipped from doing 80%, spending 80% of the benefit of my business, my passion, coming from 20% of the work. That kind of flipped to where about 80% of what I was doing was not benefiting, was not what I was strong in. They weren't my strengths. I was working about 20% in my strengths. And so I've been trying to flip that and having some success with it. It's a day-to-day thing. But for me, what that has meant is that I'm learning to relinquish a bit more control, which is extremely hard to do if you're a freelancer or someone just starting, passing things off more to my ICs, even if that means that I don't get as much commission out of the deal, but it's freeing me up to do that which I do best. And that's filling the pipeline, consulting, serving these organizations, helping them develop their travel management for all of these teams that they're sending. And so that kind of gives me a bit more vim and vigor and puts a little bit more of a kick in my step, and I can pound my fist on the table in a good way and actually look forward to coming in, because once again, now I'm starting to focus in on that, which I love. Focus in on the why. It's there's a Simon Sinek that talks about the power of why. Why are you doing this? And really refocusing on that. That's what I'm most excited about. And we've got a couple of new partnerships I may mention a little bit, but that are exciting for me, just because it's kind of a new area. It's a new focus. It's a new niche within. How should I say that? Niche or niche?
I say niche because I just like the way it sounds.
Okay. So there's a couple other areas, kind of a niche within a niche, within a niche within a niche. Just continuing to hone in on and get as narrow as I can in my niche. I usually say niche, so it sounds weird to me. But narrowing my niche even further so that I can really be focusing on that which I do best.
You have given us so many gems today, just because that's one of my huge things is focusing on your why and personal development, because it's so important I feel like a lot of us feel like we're kind of on this island, and it's about reaching out and getting in masterminds and working on personal development and truly staying, intentional about the 80-20. So thank you for talking about that. And that being what you're excited about is, reinvigorating your business and yourself in your business. Because it's an up and down road, and as you grow, you have more growing pains. And so it's centering yourself and getting back to the things that really light your fire. So congratulations on that as well, because sometimes it takes people a long time, and I can tell in your facial expressions, you really are super excited about what you're doing. So that makes me really happy for you.
Very cool.
So, like I said, I'm super excited about this whole air only and the work that you're doing and the people that you're serving. So if people wanted to find you and get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Well, there's my email. There's always mkigrouptravel.com. The MKI stands, I borrowed that from some promotion that I think my denomination had a million years ago, Maximum Kingdom Impact. So from the Christian side of things, that's where we got the name MKI Group Travel. mkigrouptravel.com is my website. My email, Mike, as in Mike, at mkigrouptravel.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. Those are probably the best way to do it. I'm wide open. If you have listeners that are interested in breaking into the whole religious travel side of things, or just the group travel, it doesn't even have to be religious travel. We do a lot of student groups and that type of thing as well. I'm more than happy to chat, jump on a Zoom call or a phone call or a smoke signal, whatever it takes. And I'm of the persuasion that there's plenty of business out there. And if you feel like you've got the connections and want to delve into this particular area, I'd be more than happy to, direct you to the different suppliers that I've used, or give you the different tips, or impart what little wisdom I might have at this point. But I'd be more than happy to help. So feel free to track me down, give me a call, send me an email. You can try tweet, but I won't reply. Facebook or LinkedIn.
I love that you're little wisdom. You've given us a ton today, so it's a little bit more than just a little bit.
Sure. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting niche. Even as far as the religious travel, that's probably, how do you break into? You've got a church that you want to reach. Most churches have what I call gatekeepers. It's not the senior pastor necessarily. It's not the missions pastor necessarily. In a school, it's not the principal necessarily. A lot of times it's one of the administrative assistants or a volunteer, and it's finding those gatekeepers and developing relationships there. How do you do some of that type of thing? What else is there? I think in terms of the humanitarian travel, there's so many different contracts out there. That's really probably the best known secret that I'm letting out of the bag right now is, you probably know this as well, but commissions have been coming back, especially for international airfare. But beyond the commissions, the humanitarian contracts, tour contracts, consolidator contracts, student contracts, adoption air contracts, those are all private contracts that you get access to those puppies. And that's where the fun begins. I tell people, if they say, well, I can just go on Expedia, everybody's heard that. And I find it $7 cheaper. 9 times out of 10, I tell people, hey, I go to Expedia to determine how much I can charge you, because there are opportunities to make money in the air only. It's provided for my family for the last 12 years, and God willing, it'll provide for the next couple as well. But so there are ways that you can make money in air only. A lot of agents I run into are like, you're air only, you're nuts. How could, what? But I would go nuts if I tried doing leisure, if I tried doing what you do best and your specialty. And it would drive me absolutely insane, and I would probably lose more clients than I would gain. So I'm going to stick with what I'm good at, and I'll send everybody else your way. How about that?
That is perfect self-awareness. I'm hoping to find that sooner than later. Because like you said, the whole, help anybody and getting closer and closer to that your niche and just drilling all the way down, because it's kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, the business is out there, and we're going to do better long term by getting as many people up to snuff and help them serve their clients well, building those relationships, and just seeing where it takes us. Otherwise, it's so easy to kind of buy into this whole fear mindset that I have to protect my clients and have to protect what I've got so no one will take it. You know what? If you're serving your clients well, help other people serve their clients well, and we'll be just fine.
We're better together. Well, this has been an awesome interview. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. And I look forward to just, following your journey. Thank you for joining the Travel Agent Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Visit thetraveleagentpodcast.com for more information about today's episode and other travel agent resources. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for new episodes. Until next time, continue to build a travel business you love.